Welcome to the official podcast of Vienna Shadows, a secret society uncovering Vienna's hidden mysteries. Lean back and enjoy the show.
Imagine standing on the cobblestone streets of 1920s Vienna.
Oh, right.
The sun is setting behind these towering, soot-stained municipal buildings. A steam train rattles past on the elevated tracks overhead, and instead of feeling, the marvel of modern engineering, you hear this rhythmic, metallic pounding of a nail being driven repeatedly into the coffin of reality.
That's quite the visual.
Welcome to the deep dive.
Yeah.
Usually when we explore a tabletop role-playing game setting, especially, for you game masters running gaslight horror, there's this comforting assumption about human progress.
Yeah, the classic trope.
Right. You picture the brave investigators holding up a newly invented electric lantern, and the intense light banishes the ancient slimy monster back into the darkness.
Right.
We have this collective fantasy that industrialization, the spread of cities, the hum of the machine age, that all these things just pave over the ancient burial grounds, and the ghosts simply pack up and leave.
It is a very binary, almost comforting way to look at conflict, really. I mean, humanity and technology stand on one side, representing order and survival, while ancient cosmic dread stands on the other. Like the light pushes back the dark, the city is our fortress.
But then you open up the lore for the Vienna Shadows TTRPG, and that entire dynamic is just flipped on its head.
Completely flipped.
Yeah. So today we are tearing into a specific, incredibly lore-heavy setting guide for the game called The Industrial Engine, The Long 19th Century, and the Mechanized Void.
Such a great title.
It really is. And it offers a vision of the 1920s that is deeply unsettling, because in this universe, progress didn't defeat the monsters, it mechanized them.
Yeah, it demands a complete paradigm shift from anyone stepping into the game master role.
For sure.
This sourcebook takes the real historical modernization of Vienna and asks this devastating question. What if the sprawling infrastructure of a modern metropolis isn't a bulwark against the outer dark, but is actually like a giant city-sized circuit board wired directly into it?
Okay, let's unpack this, because this concept of the city as a corrupted machine is wild.
It's massive.
Yeah, but a machine doesn't just build itself. If 1920s Vienna is a circuit board, as a GM, we have to figure out how the wires were laid and how the path was cleared to explain this to the players.
Exactly.
The text points to a massive physical metamorphosis of the city itself. Specifically, the construction of the Ringstrasse in the mid-19th century.
Historically, Kaiser Franz Joseph I gave the order in 1857 to destroy Vienna's ancient medieval city walls.
Which is a huge deal.
Oh, massive. He also ordered the clearing of the glacis, which were, the wide open defensive fields surrounding the inner city. The stated goal was urban renewal, building a grand sweeping boulevard, a Parkstrasse, to modernize the capital and connect the center to the suburbs.
So tearing down those walls was like pulling the plug on a bathtub, but instead of the water draining out, the cosmic horror flooded in.
Yeah, exactly. The setting guide reveals the shadow truth behind that urban renewal.
This is the good stuff.
Right. Those ancient medieval walls were never just stone and mortar meant to stop the Ottoman army. They formed a physical, continuous binding glyph. It was an energetic circle that penned up a localized cosmic rot festering deep in the Vienna basin. So when the Kaiser's engineers tore those walls down to build the Ringstrasse, they shattered the circle.
I see the initial disaster there, but what they built in place of those walls seems to make the situation actively predatory.
Oh, absolutely.
Because the guide talks about the massive grand public buildings erected along the boulevard, the parliament, the university, the opera house. It claims these were designed by occult architects to function as resonance vaults.
Right, the resonance vaults.
I need to understand the mechanism here. Are the people inside the opera getting possessed by demons while watching Mozart?
Well, no, they aren't being possessed. They're being harvested.
Harvested. That's so creepy.
Yeah, the architecture acts as a funnel. Think about the acoustics of a cathedral, right? It's designed to elevate a choir's voices to the heavens.
Sure.
These resonance vaults use a similar principle, but apply it to human emotion and direct it downward. The ambient anxiety of the populace, the artistic ecstasy radiating from the performers in the opera, the raw political fury echoing through the chambers of Parliament.
So all that energy.
Exactly. The specific geometry of these buildings captures that psychic energy and funnels it straight down into subterranean rifts beneath the city bedrock.
See, for you as a GM, that fundamentally changes how you describe the grandeur of the 1920s to your players.
It really does.
It's not just beautiful architecture, it's literally an environmental hazard. The buildings are passively feeding on the citizens. And the text notes this destruction of defenses didn't stop at the inner ring, right?
No, not at all. It extended out to the Linnean Wall.
Which was what, exactly?
It was this massive earthen rampart built in the 18th century that separated the inner suburbs from the rural outskirts.
Okay, got it.
When that barrier was dismantled late in the 19th century to make way for the Girdled Boulevard, it unleashed a distinctly different nightmare.
Which was?
The Linnean Wall had been a physical ward against entities the guide calls the starving ones. Yeah, they're basically these Wendigo-like manifestations born from famine and rural isolation.
So, with the barrier gone, the starving ones just rush in.
Yes.
But they're followed by thousands of displaced rural workers seeking factory jobs. They flood into the crowded tenements of the 10th District, Favoriton.
Exactly.
And the brutal, grinding exploitation of these workers in the factories essentially turns the entire district into a massive emotional battery. They are powering something called the engine heart.
A nascent technological god.
So freaky.
Incubating in the deep industrial basements of the city. It feeds entirely on the systemic suffering and physical exhaustion of the working class.
Which gives the GM such a visceral sensory detail to use at the table.
Oh, definitely.
The smog, the relentless noise of the factories, the players will slowly realize it's not just a depressing atmosphere, it's the metabolic process of a deity.
Yeah, the city is digesting them.
Ugh. Speaking of sensory details, we have to talk about what they did to the Wienfluss, the Vienna River.
Right. At the end of the 19th century, this wild, unpredictable river was entirely regulated. It was entombed in steel-reinforced concrete tunnels beneath the Naschmarkt and Karlsplatz.
Wait, if you bury a river in concrete, wouldn't that just kill off any aquatic entities living in it? Like just starve them of light and nature?
Well, you would think it would smother them. But the guide notes it does the exact opposite.
Really?
Yeah, the river was a living artery for the Vidunia, these primeval water spirits. Caging them in concrete and darkness doesn't kill them. It concentrates their presence and traps their madness.
That is horrifying.
It turns the entire subterranean canal system into this massive acoustic amplifier.
So think about the audio environment you can create for your party there. Your investigators are walking through the bustling, crowded Naschmarkt in the 1920s, haggling over produce.
Yeah, very mundane.
But right under their feet is this vast, echo-prone concrete vault acting as a whispering gallery. The aquatic chants of these trapped deep ones are bouncing off the iron pipes, vibrating through the grating and traveling straight up into the market stalls above.
The infrastructure itself is inherently hostile. It's a brilliant way to ensure the players never feel truly safe, even in broad daylight in a crowded market.
If the city is a machine gathering all this horrific energy, well, machines require a transmission system.
They do.
They need wires. And that leads us into the technological leaps of the Gründerzeit era, the period of rapid industrial expansion.
The prime example here is the Kaiser Ferdinand's Nordbahn.
The railway.
Yes, the railway system started in 1837, connecting Vienna to the coal-rich north. To the mundane eye, it's a triumph of commerce.
Right.
But the mythos fusion here reveals that those iron rails aren't just straight lines laid out for logistical efficiency. They are precise, geometric vector lines.
The guide says the constant rhythmic pounding of the steam locomotives acts as a steady kinetic hammer.
A kinetic hammer, yes.
It is physically driving the dimensional web of the Great Weaver at Lachnaucha deep into the bedrock of the Nordbahnhof rail yards. Every time a train rolls into the station, it's reinforcing a cosmic spider web.
The source material masterfully recontextualizes the mundane sounds of the city. For the players, hearing a steam locomotive approaching in the distance shouldn't signal that a convenient mode of transport is arriving.
No, definitely not.
It should trigger an immediate sense of dread.
Here's where it gets really interesting, though, because it's not just the infrastructure that's weaponized, it's historical tragedy.
Yeah.
Let's look at the Ring Theater fire of December 1881. This was a real catastrophic event where nearly 450 upper-class citizens died in a single evening due to locked doors and malfunctioning gas lighting.
A terrible historical tragedy.
Yes. But the setting guide maps that real grief onto the occult underground. claiming it was an engineered sacrifice.
Orchestrated by a faction known as the Black Robes. They wanted the sudden, concentrated release of terror and agony from Vienna's high society to burn a permanent scorched void into the spatial fabric of the Schottering.
I need to understand the mechanics of that. How does a building burning down tear the spatial fabric? Is it the physical heat of the fire?
Actually, it has nothing to do with the physical temperature.
No.
The Black Robes used the architecture of the theater as a pressure cooker for human consciousness.
That's intense.
When 450 people experience absolute, inescapable terror simultaneously, the psychic residue is so intensely concentrated that it acts like acid on the fabric of reality.
Wow.
The physical fire was just the catalyst to extract the terror.
That makes perfect sense, and the guide gives GMs an incredible environmental hazard to play with.
Oh, for sure.
It says anyone standing near the site of the old theater at twilight will literally taste phantom ash in their throats.
Just walking by.
The psychic residue is so thick that it renders them momentarily blind to physical reality. You can have a tense conversation happening on the street, the sun dips down, and suddenly a player is choking on the ghosts of 1881, unable to see the assassin walking toward them.
It seamlessly blends the lore with mechanical danger.
Which brings up the next logical question. Who the hell is operating this machine? If the city is a corrupted circuit board, someone is doing the maintenance.
Yes, they are.
The guide details how the industrialization of the 19th century splintered the ancient occult groups into something called the War of the Robes. Let's walk through who the players are actually going to run into on the streets.
The factions are deeply intertwined with the political upheavals of the era, particularly the 1848 revolutions.
And as a quick aside for the listener, the sourcebook covers groups across the entire political spectrum from this era, from radical anarchists to wealthy capitalists.
Right.
And obviously, we're just reporting on how the game lore utilizes these historical factions for its cosmic horror setting, completely impartially.
Exactly. So we start with the Black Robes, who infiltrated the explosive radical anarchist movements and the industrial factories.
Okay.
Their tactical agenda in the 1920s is sheer apocalyptic destruction. They want to use targeted factory sabotage to crack those concrete vaults of the Wienfluss we discussed earlier.
To let the water spirits out.
Yes, hoping to submerge Vienna in liquid chaos.
Then you have the Crimson Robes, embedded in high academia. They gained massive political clout when the University of Vienna secured constitutional academic freedom in 1867.
Right.
What are they doing with that freedom? They're raiding municipal construction archives. They are using old 1848 artillery damage protocols to map exactly where Imperial cannon fire broke ancient ley lines during the revolutions. It's this chilling blend of meticulous bureaucracy and black magic.
The setting also provides factions that might aid the players, though.
Oh, good. We need allies.
The text introduces the Crimson Cracked Branch. This splinter group was inspired by radical medical students during the 1848 uprising who made a horrifying discovery. The imperial state was quietly testing cosmic pathogens on the city's poor under the guise of cholera outbreaks.
Yeah, finding that out would definitely cause a schism in the academic ranks.
Absolutely. In the 1920s, this cracked branch operates out of abandoned 19th century railway tunnels. They actively shelter union leaders and factory workers, desperately trying to save them from being captured and used as literal flesh batteries for the engine heart.
They're likely to be the players' primary quest givers, I imagine.
Most likely, yeah. And opposing them on almost every front are the Golden Robes.
The capitalists.
These are the high-flying industrialists, the Grunder, and the imperial bureaucrats who built the Ringstrasse in the first place to flaunt their wealth and mask the darkness.
Right.
In the 1920s, they owned the gasworks, the tram lines, the central banks.
They use that mundane infrastructure to harvest the residual psychic exhaustion of the working class to bind entities and power the city's grid.
Exactly.
They're basically the 1920s occult equivalent of corrupt modern tech CEOs.
That's a great way to put it.
But instead of mining your user data to sell targeted ads, they are literally mining your psychic exhaustion to power a demon engine.
What's fascinating here is how the sourcebook refuses to leave all this factional warfare and industrial dread as mere background flavor text.
Right. It ties into the gameplay.
It translates these concepts directly into the game's D6 roll-under system.
So what does this all mean when the dice actually hit the table for the players?
Well, the mechanics use 4 core attributes: strength, intellect, charisma, and perception.
Pretty standard. But how does the smog and the grinding machinery mechanically hurt a player character?
Through a rule called industrial exhaustion. If a character spends an extended period investigating the smoke-choked factories of Favorton or lurking down in the deep train yards, the GM asks for a strength roll.
Okay.
The player must roll a six-sided die and score under their current strength stat.
And if they roll too high?
They contract a condition called soot lung. This imposes a permanent -1 penalty to all physical actions. Crucially, while suffering from soot lung, the character can no longer recover health from resting.
Hold on, a permanent -1 physical penalty and no natural healing. That feels incredibly punishing just for walking through a poor district looking for clues.
It is punishing by design, because it forces a behavioral change in the players.
How so?
The only way to cure soot lung is to completely remove the character from the industrial machinery. They have to spend a full scene breathing clean air out in the rural Vienna woods or sitting in a well-ventilated, high-class coffee house in the inner city.
Ah, I see. It mechanically forces the players to navigate the class divides and the geography of the city.
Exactly.
A trip to a fancy coffee house isn't just role-playing downtime. It becomes a mechanical necessity for survival. I love that. And then there's the transit mechanic, locomotive resonance.
We established that the iron rails are geometric vectors for the Great Weaver.
Right, at La Schnacha.
When players are traveling by train or streetcar, they can actively try to sense the vibration of the rails. By making a perception check rolling under their perception stat, they can track an active occult frequency.
That's cool.
On a success, they might pinpoint the location of a hidden cult cell or an active ritual node.
It becomes a risky detective tool, but because this is cosmic horror, there is a severe catch, isn't there?
Oh, there is. If the player rolls a critical failure, which in this system is rolling a 6 manageable, the vibration overwhelms their senses.
Oh, no.
Their mind accidentally synchronizes with the maddening rhythmic pounding of the engine heart deep below the city.
Yikes.
This triggers an immediate massive panic attack, and the character instantly loses 1 sanity point.
Just from riding the tram, you really can't let your guard down anywhere.
Not for a second.
As a GM, just imagine the paranoia this induces in your players every time they need to cross town. Which brings us perfectly to the sample adventure provided in the book, The Ghost in the Gasometer.
It's a great scenario.
Let's trace how the guide weaves the lore, the factions, and the specific mechanics into a playable session.
The adventure is structured in 3 distinct acts. Act 1, The Leaking Void, starts right where the mechanics suggest it should, a smoky coffee house.
Classic.
The players meet a contact from the Crimson Crack branch who drops a bizarre crisis in their laps. Over the industrial 11th district, simmering, the massive municipal gasometers are malfunctioning.
These are those giant brick and iron cylinders built at the turn of the century to store the city's coal gas.
Exactly.
But the contact reviews they aren't leaking gas out into the air, they are leaking inward. The inward draft is so profoundly strong, it's literally pulling the shadows off the local factor workers.
To figure out what's happening, the players need to investigate the Gasworks Administration Office.
Okay.
This requires an intellect plus perception check. A success allows them to decipher a blueprint that was subtly altered by a Grindersite engineer who went completely mad in 1899.
Stop there for a second. I get that it's a terrifying visual, but how does a massive brick cylinder designed to hold coal gas suddenly bend gravity and suck in human shadows?
Right.
What is the actual mechanism the players discover on that blueprint?
The mad engineer didn't just change the plumbing. He altered the geometric arrangement of the interior brickwork and the iron framing.
The architecture again.
Yes. By creating specific, non-Euclidean angles within the cylinder, he manipulated the atmospheric pressure differentials.
Oh, wow.
When the coal gas is pumped in, instead of expanding outward, the geometric angles force the gas to compress infinitely inward,
Making a black hole.
creating an occult vacuum that sucks in light, gravity, and eventually the souls of anyone nearby.
Okay, that is brilliantly terrifying. So they realize the building is an occult black hole. Act 2, the Ringstrasse resonance, is all about finding the off switch.
To reverse this inward leak, the players learn they need a specific stabilizing artifact, the conductor's key.
The conductor's key.
It's a unique, meteoric iron tuning fork, originally used during the grand opening of the Ringstrasse to calibrate those resonance vaults we talked about earlier.
Naturally, it is locked inside a private vault at the University of Vienna, heavily guarded by scholars of the Crimson Robes.
So Act 2 is a heist.
The players have options here. They can attempt to fast-talk their way past the academic guards into the archives, requiring a charisma roll, or they can take the stealth route, which is delightfully creepy.
It really is.
The guide says if they sneak through the biology wing, they have to avoid the gaze of taxidermied creatures that seem to physically trace their movements. Imagine describing the glass eyes of a stuffed wolf slowly swiveling on its wooden mount to follow the rogue as they pick a lock.
Once they secure the key, it propels them into Act 3, the furnace of the old world. The players head back to Simmering, tracking the stolen shadows down into the roaring, oppressive furnace room beneath Gasometer B.
Where everything goes wrong.
This is where the faction warfare explodes into the open in a three-way battle.
The Golden Robes are already there, deploying prototype steam-powered exoskeletons. They want to capture the compressed shadow matter from the occult vacuum because they intend to refine it into a highly addictive, reality-warping synthetic narcotic to sell to the city's elite.
Pure corrupt capitalism.
Exactly.
But the Black Robes have also breached the facility. They don't care about capturing the shadow matter. They want to weaponize the pressure.
Just blow it up.
They are actively attacking the control valves with sledgehammers, trying to cause a catastrophic explosion of compressed void gas that will blow a literal hole in reality all the way back to the Ringstrasses.
The players are caught in the middle of this chaos and have to use the conductor's key to fix the machinery. Mechanically, this is the climactic roll of the night.
High stakes.
They have to roll intelligence to strike the tuning fork and realign the valve wheels. But the guide specifies this roll comes with a -2 difficulty penalty because the escaping, mind-bending gas in the room is actively fighting their cognitive functions.
If they succeed despite the penalty, the tuning fork's resonance neutralizes the occult vacuum. They safely vent the trapped cosmic pressure into the concrete drainage system that leads to the Weenfluss,
Right.
saving the district before the industrial engine can tear it apart.
The epilogue outlines the stakes beautifully. On a success, the gasometers go quiet. The shadows snap back to the workers on the factory floor, though the guide explicitly notes those workers will permanently remember the cold geometry of the void.
A nice little scar for the NPCs.
Exactly. As a reward, the cracked branch gives the party a specific piece of loot, a vouch for the rails.
It's a stamped transit pass that allows the players to use the locomotive tracks to instantly escape a pursuit, bending the spatial geometry of the rail lines in their favor.
That's super useful.
It can only be used once per campaign, making it a highly strategic asset tied directly to the lore of the transit system.
But what if that intelligence roll goes bad? What if the Black Robes smash the valves before the players can strike the tuning fork?
Failure means Gasometer B implodes.
Total disaster.
It creates a permanent, localized gravity sink right there in Simmering. The entire factory district becomes an inescapable twilight zone of warped steel and silent, faceless laborers trapped in a time loop of their own exhaustion.
And the Golden Robes, being the ultimate opportunist, just cordoned off the disaster zone with their private security forces so they can strip mine it.
They take advantage of the rupture. The adventure notes they immediately begin mining the black oil weeping from the torn earth inside the gravity sink.
So as a GM, you now have an incredibly robust toolkit. You have architectural dread, where the buildings themselves are hostile, complex faction warfare rooted in real historical class struggles, and brilliant environmental mechanics like soot lung to ensure the players feel the weight of the city pressing down on them.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, the sourcebook understands that the best cosmic horror doesn't ignore human ambition. It relies on it.
Yeah.
The Industrial Revolution of this game is terrifying, precisely because it is so organized, so deeply bureaucratic, and ultimately unstoppable.
Right. It's systemic.
The horror isn't hiding from the light of progress. It's being mass-produced by it.
It truly is a masterpiece of setting design. And I want to leave you, the Game Master, with one final thread to pull on for your own campaign prep, drawn right from that failure state in the adventure. We mentioned that if the gasometer implodes, the Golden Robes immediately start mining the black oil weeping from the ruptured earth.
Yeah.
I want you to ponder that as you write your next session. What exactly is this cosmic black oil? And if those wealthy industrialists manage to harvest enough of it from the wounds of the city, what terrifying new industrial revolution will they unleash on your players next? When you finally pull the plug on the bathtub, you really don't want to know what's waiting in the drain.
This concludes today's episode. Don't forget to rate and subscribe. Until next time, Vienna Shadows, signing off.